Hopefully, you all had a fantastic 4 days. A little cold, but
Mhm.
hopefully, you enjoyed the holiday Halloween weekend and the 2 days that you had off. As teachers, we were still working. We were able to work from home, which was really nice. But we got a lot of stuff done and prepared for the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to just talk briefly with you. As a little reminder, today starts the second marking period. The second marking period goes until mid-January. So just so you're kind of thinking about how long it is. So right around Martin Luther King Day will be the end of the second marking period. Just so you're thinking ahead. Um, this is the agenda that I have pulled up, and hopefully you are referring to the agenda. My suggestion is to download it so that you don't have to think about what is due each week or each day for my class, because I do provide you with a weekly agenda. What I need you all to do right now, as I have at the top of my agenda, the link is embedded in the agenda. The link is also at the top of Google Classroom. I need you to please right now submit your virtual attendance. So this is so important, not only for the district, but for the state as they keep track of our attendance records. So please, if you have not done so, this needs to be done every single day. You must click on that link and submit your attendance. So please submit your virtual attendance. And then looking ahead at the week, it is just a short 3 day week. We will be continuing on section 4.3 today. And then tomorrow and Friday, we're going to work on section 4.4. All of this deals with factoring. However, there are actually 4 or 5 different approaches to factoring that we're going to kind of look at. And by Friday, you should be able to look at a problem and decide which approach you need to take to factor the problem. I will say that this is the true start of Algebra 2. So chapters 1, 2, and 3, they were really review material, predominantly review material. Yes, there was a couple of concepts that would have been new, but overall, chapters 1, 2, and 3 is our review to get you back into the algebra framework in order for you to do Algebra 2 concepts. So if you were struggling then, especially with the pace or the workload, you might see a difference in the level of material that we will be covering moving forward, because it's going to be new, but we're keeping the same pace moving forward. So, yes, we might spend 2 days on a section instead of one, but the concepts are going to get increasingly more difficult. And you're going to see that immediately with chapter 4, especially looking at Friday and next Monday, when we really start to amp up the application part of the class. So you might realize that you're going to have to start reaching out for help a little more often with Ms. Carp or I. Or you might see that you have to spend a little more time with your homework than you have in the past. So please make sure that if you are struggling, you use the time when you're in school. Hopefully, we'll be back in school next week, but you're using the time in homeroom or before homeroom whenever you get here to ask questions. Or you say, Mrs. K, Ms. Carp, can one of you set up a Zoom with me at some point during your day? After school is a really good time for us to do that as well, or before school at 7 o'clock in the morning. The last thing that I want to kind of reiterate to you, you have a quiz next Wednesday, but the homework policy is something that I want to just remind you of. So, yes, homework is 2 points. You pretty much have homework every day, as you've seen. So, you figure about 8 points worth of homework every single day. It needs to be turned in on time. I will accept late homework one day after the due date. So today, Friday's homework is due today. I will accept it one day late, which will be tomorrow, but you're going to get half credit for it. Anything after 24 hours late, so anything after tomorrow, I will not be accepting homework. So homework must be turned in on time. I'm not going back 2 months or 2 weeks ago and looking at homework assignments because you decided that you want to turn it in now so that you can get credit so your grade can get better. If you are submitting late work, it is your responsibility to email me. Even if it's 3 days late and you're like, I still want to try and get credit for this, please email me. I will not be looking at any work that is submitted late. You will not get credit for any work that is submitted late without an email. So you must email me, Mrs. Kane. I submitted this assignment late. please look at Google Classroom and grade it for me. If you have any questions about that, please send me an email, stay on after class and talk to me about that. But this is now second marking period. It's honors algebra 2, and we really have to kind of buckle down and move forward from this point. Yes, I know we're still in a pandemic, but like we've got to keep working towards the future now. And these are things that will help you with your future. So again, if you have questions, please let me know. So I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Karp, where she's going to kind of start with you on the concepts for today.
All right. So first, get out your homework from last night if you have not already. We're going to look at 2 questions from there. Here we go. So we're going to look at your homework, and then we are going to take it a step farther and solve quadratic equations. So we're going to factor and then solve for x. And then lastly, we're going to do some Quizlet factoring activity at the end, a little race game. All right. So from your homework last night, there were 2 problems I wanted to look at. One was number 7. It was p squared plus 2p plus 4. So an answer that I saw frequently was p plus 2, p plus 2. Can someone tell me what they think about this answer? Is it right? Is it wrong? Why? Ava M. Do you want to tell me what you think about this answer?
I mean, I have the same answer, so.
So let's think about this. Ava M, what would this be when we factor it out again? So when we FOIL.
P squared,
Mm-hmm.
2p plus 2p plus 2p plus 4.
Yeah. So then when we combine like terms, what do we get?
P squared plus 4p plus 4.
And is that the same thing as what we started with?
No, the 4p is different.
Right. So it is, I highly suggest when you do factor, go through and FOIL to see if you got what you started with, see if you made any mistakes. So this was a common mistake that I saw. This can't be factored. The answer to this was it cannot be factored. And that's because you can't get factors of 4, positive 4, to add to positive 2. That's a tricky one. Questions on that? All right. And then the other one was number 12. This is not the answer. Cannot be factored there. So then number 12 was c squared minus 9c minus 18. So then an answer I saw here was c minus 6 and c minus 3. Is this correct? Is this wrong? Someone help me out. Helene, could you tell me what you think about this answer?
I think it's wrong.
Why? I agree.
If you multiply 2 negatives, you'll get a positive.
Yeah, this, when you add negative 6c, so when we're FOILing this back out, we'll get a positive 18 there. And yeah, these c's add to be negative 9c, but we started with a negative 18. So this one couldn't be factored as well. That was a common mistake. That is not right. Cannot be factored. So just be careful and FOIL back out the factors that you make to double check your answer.
And the way you would write that solution, you can write not factorable, or you can just write NF. So it is not factorable. You can write NF, or you can write cannot be factored. But generally, we use the NF, not factorable, for those problems that cannot be factored.
All right. So now we are going to move into our notes for today. So we are on, it is page 6 in your note packet. It says this at the top. Solving x squared plus bx plus c equals 0 by factoring. And we're going to talk about the zero product property. So a root of an equation and a zero of a function are basically the same thing, but they mean different. You would say a root and a zero at different times. So a root of an equation are solutions of the quadratic equation. So they're solutions, so we'll get this when we solve for x, when we factor. And then a zero of a function, you would say something is 0 when the function's value is 0. And this is like an x-intercept. When your function crosses that x-axis where it's 0. So they are the same thing, but when you're given a function, you call it a 0. And when you're solving a quadratic equation, call it a root. So the zero product property. If the product of two expressions is 0, then one or both of the expressions equals 0. So this means if A and B are expressions and AB equals 0, then what does A and B equal here? Ella, what do A and B equal if AB equals 0?
A equals 0 or B equals 0.
Yeah. One of them has to be 0 if them multiplied together equals 0. Good. So then if we have x plus 5 and x plus 2 equals 0, those two factors, then x plus 5 has to equal 0, or x plus 2 has to equal 0. So when we're solving for x in each of these, what would we get if we solve for x in each of them? Faith?
You would get x equals -5
Yep.
or x equals -2.
Yep. Good. When you're solving for x, you'd subtract that number to the other side. Good. All right. So now we went through the property that allows us to do that. Now we're going to use it and we're going to find the roots of this equation. So they give us an equation, that's why they're calling it roots. So we have this equation, x squared minus 2x minus 15. Go ahead and factor that. Ignore this equals 0 for right now. Factor the x squared minus 2x minus 15. And Jaden, when you're done, tell me what you got.
Wait, so we're isolating the variable right now, is that correct?
Yeah, so we want to factor this x squared minus 2x minus 15.
Oh, so all right, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, just ignore this equals 0 right now. Take that equation and factor it just like we've been doing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So while Jaden finishes up, Riley, could you tell me what you got as the factored form?
I didn't completely solve it yet, but I got I factored out negative 15 and then I got negative 3 and positive 5.
Negative 3 and positive 5?
Yeah,
So when you add negative 3 and 5, what does that equal?
positive 2.
Right, and what do we need it to be?
Negative 2.
Yeah, so what should we do to the signs?
Switch so that it's negative 5 and positive 3.
Yeah, good. So then this would look like x minus 5 and x plus 3. So now we're going to take that equals 0 that I scribbled out. And this is equal to 0. This x minus 5 and x plus 3, that's just a different factored form of that x squared minus 2x minus 5. It still equals that. We're just putting it in a different form. So now if you look above, we're setting each of these factors equal to 0. So we're taking this x minus 5 and setting that equal to 0, and this x plus 3 and setting that equal to 0 to find the roots. So then what would our roots be here when we're solving for x in each of these equations? Lacey, could you tell me what our roots would be here when we solve for x?
Would it be negative 3 and positive 5?
Yeah. We'd get negative 3 from this x plus 3 equals 0. And we'd get x equals 5 when we add them over. So we have 5 and negative 3. So those are the roots of this equation. So we're going to factor and we're going to set each of those factors equal to 0. So now in example 4, it says find the zeros of a quadratic function. And they give us a function that we have y equals x squared plus 5x minus 6. And they want us to rewrite the function in intercept form. That means that we're going to factor. Ignore that y equals right now, and we are going to factor that x squared plus 5x minus 6. Go ahead and factor that. And Gabby Soul, when you're done, tell me what you got.
I got x plus 6 and x minus 1.
Good, because she knew that the factors of 6 and negative 1 added to 5, but when they're multiplied together, they equal negative 6. Good. So now we are setting this factored form of the function equal to 0. So that's what we're doing. We're taking this function and we're making that y 0. So now we're solving for x. So you would have two different equations, x plus 6 equals 0 and x minus 1 equals 0. And when you solve for x, what do we get? Ava R.
For the first one, it would be x equals +1. And then for the second one, it'd be x equals -6.
Good. And they're saying that we're writing this in intercept form. What do those x's mean? They're zeros of the function. So when y equals 0, when we're making y equals 0, what are the x's? Do you remember? Faith, do you remember what our x's are when we set y equal to 0?
I don't know.
It's in one of the intercepts. So when we set y equal to 0, what are we solving for? We set the opposite variable equal to 0 when we're solving for intercepts.
We're
so we're
solving for x.
Yeah, the x-intercepts. And that's why it's saying write it in intercept form. We're finding our x-intercepts here. So those are our x-intercepts, our zeros of our function. Good. All right, so now we're going to take out your graphing calculator. And we want to check that function, those are the x-intercepts. So you're going to go into y equals, and you're going to type in x squared plus 5x minus 6. And you're going to hit graph. And you can use second trace to find where your intercepts are, your zeros. This calculator is slow. So I'm going to go on the left side of that intercept on the left, go to the right, and my calculator looks a little different from yours, but right, you'll see zeros is the second line under that graph, and it's -6. And that's what we got. So then I'm going to go to my other intercept on the other side and see if I got the other one. Going on the left, going on the right. And that second line says that our 0 is x of 1. And those are the two zeros that we got, our x-intercepts, which are our zeros. Was everyone able to get that on their calculator? All right. Cool. Questions on the zero product property or solving for roots or zeros? All right, so now we're going to do that Quizlet activity. Head over to Google Classroom.
Miss Carp,
Yeah.
so for the calculator, are you supposed to get exactly the number, or is it going to be a decimal?
So when I pulled mine up, it gave me like -0.99999 or positive 0.99999. So that rounds to 1. And the same thing when I got -6, it gave me -5.99999. So sometimes it can be a little off, but that's just, that's fine. As long as it's rounding to what. Yeah, you're welcome. So you will see under today's date, there is a factoring activity. And you're going to click that link.